Good evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo podcast. You are joining your host, Greg Tompsett, along with my partner in crime, Aaron Quinn. Aaron, how did your 2-seed feel?
I had a great day. I enjoy being in the 2-seed. I'm not terrified of what happens to whatever we end up facing in the 2-seed. This is a great day, Greg. This is I wish that everybody could go back in time to about 6 to 8 months ago of how they felt this was going to go, and then come to this moment now where the Bills, for most of the season, had a real chance to be the 1 seed and now have solidified themselves as the second best team in the AFC, heading into yet another postseason where they are not the favorite for the Super Bowl odds, but one of the top 4 teams in the NFL favored to potentially win a Super Bowl here, man. I couldn't be happier. There's definitely some flaws, some negative things that we will be able to break down and talk about, but not today. There wasn't.
Yeah, you are joining us because the Buffalo Bills have defeated the New York Jets 40-0. The scoreboard is going to tell you there were 14 points. Tyrod Taylor scored them. That doesn't count. The Buffalo Bills defeated Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets 40-0. They shut out Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and the rest of the Jets starters. It was a dominating victory. The defense had their best game in quite a stretch here. Was a absolutely fantastic performance, and maybe like the most get right you could get to feel good about going into it. Yeah, Chris here saying the refs almost made it unwatchable. They tried.
There's
the refs were not horrendous. They were just constant. Like they weren't bad calls necessarily.
I was gonna say the players definitely gave them a reason to do it.
Yeah,
times,
a couple of them, like half of them, because there was like 16 flags early. But there were some ticky-tack ones that were a little bit rough. But they destroyed the Jets here. And it was, I think, really maybe the best possible example of what you've reiterated throughout the season, that this defense is capable of coming up with big plays in the moment. There's risk to that. There are teams who are capable of finishing those drives and not letting the Bills come up with a big play. But when you talk about the turnover differential specifically as the biggest factor in toxic differential, today was the best possible example they came up with. Just unbelievable big play after big play, 3 official turnovers plus a 4th down stuff. Just, constantly coming up with the big play. There was a stretch where the Jets were shut out, and it was like late into the third quarter where they hadn't punted and they were shut out because they had kept coming up with dumb endings of drives and had a safety and all kinds of other weird things that blocked it up. So really nice play by the defense. The offense had some really nice moments, a couple clunky moments that weren't perfect, but when you're up 40-0, it's kind of hard to nitpick.
Yeah, and one thing I don't want to get lost here is yes, it was the Jets. Yes, the Jets stink. They're not a great football team this year. They didn't have a lot to play for, but still dominating in this fashion. I don't care what football team it is. It is a professional football team on the other side of the ball. Most NFL games are 1-score games, even when you're playing not great teams. Look at what the Panthers have done. That is not a good football team. That's not a great roster. And what they've been able to do this year and taking some really good teams down to the wire. You still have to show up and beat these teams, and we take it for granted because I think the expectation is blowing out teams like this, and it's rare to have a team that is consistently blowing out some other teams. And so I don't take it for granted when this happens. We just saw last week. I think a lot of people expected this is also what the Bills would have done to the Patriots, and we got in a close game with the Patriots and eke that one out. This game could have gone that way, but the Bills, I think to your credit, when we were doing our predictions, you kind of said hey, that was a lesson learned, and they're going to come out and give it to this team. They're not going to let them push them over.
I don't know that I had 40-0 give it to them, but I did think it was going to be impactful. The fact that they were so sluggish, I thought they were going to come out really focused, and they obviously did.
Yeah, and honestly, the start of this game, there was some sloppy stuff. I wasn't thrilled with. There's a lot left on the bone, a lot of meat on the bone in that first half where it was a little bit sloppy on offense. The defense was getting some breaks and takeaways and stuff like that. But again, the yards were being given up. But real tough day. And again, I know it's against the Jets, so all of the comments I'm going to make about how excited I am about this are on the curve of applying the curve that it was the Jets. But a tough day for the people that the turnovers are going to dry up. They can't sustain this type of havoc defense and this up and down defense where they give up yards, but they get stops. They displayed pretty well today that they are generating turnovers. And some of that is luck. Some of that is actually just fundamental play. Like the one where Ed Oliver came, he's going after the ball. You see Christian Benford continuously going after the ball. But I think the big thing today was some of the third down stops. We saw the conversation that Anthony Prohaska was having, Eric Turner and he were having, and talking about some of those third downs. I was really keying in on those downs and seeing Von Miller come up with a big sack on a third down, seeing Ed Oliver get in there on a third and getting these guys into third and longs. Again, no, it's the Jets, but this still matters. And to your point, some of this stuff it doesn't matter who you're playing against. It's about building confidence heading into January, because I'm expecting Josh Allen's going to start next week, but not play. Right. And I think we will see some starters because you can't sit everybody, but they're going to rest a lot of people next week. So this, for a lot of these guys, a lot of these starters, was a great confidence booster heading into postseason football play.
Aaron, if you had to guess, how many third downs do you think Aaron Rodgers converted today? The Jets offense while Aaron Rodgers was on the field?
Well, probably not a lot, because a lot of what they were successful on was like getting first downs on first and second and marching. So I would say like 2, maybe.
Zero. He
okay.
did not convert a third down.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely moved the ball at times.
They converted 4 on the day. All 4 were by Tyrod Taylor in the final 2 garbage time drives of the game. So they technically were 4 of 9. They were 0 for 5 early on. And again, they did move the ball down the field, although not that much. They had 148 total yards before those 2 garbage time drives. So the defense
got
was
some
excellent
good field
overall.
Position early.
Yeah.
Didn't do much with it. When we go through the drive by drive, there's some things in the first half that were a little fluky that went the Bills' way, but that's not going to take away from some of the really good play that we saw.
Yeah, a lot of very strong play. So as we look at the overall here, there's obviously not a great deal of negative, but I am going to start on the defensive side of the ball because they really, obviously, that was the group that flashed here. You're talking about 7 total quarterback hits, 4 sacks, 8 tackles for a loss, 3 pass breakups, and then you go into 2 interceptions, one by Jordan Phillips, although he robbed me of a big man rumbling, bumbling, and stumbling. So I'm a little upset with him.
Smart play to just.
I respect it was a smart decision, but I don't have to like it.
Sure.
And then Christian Benford, who had a chance at 2, but came down with the second one, plus Ed Oliver punching out the fumble and Matt Milano going on it when Aaron Rodgers pulled his best Cam Newton. He absolutely had a chance to recover that fumble and just straight up made a business decision. Seeing Matt Milano coming, he's like, "Nah, go ahead, you can have it." Like he gave Matt Milano the football
he doesn't
for
want
that recovery. He's like, "Yeah, I'm good, I'm okay." So I loved that setup. Plus, although there's been a lot of garbage time stat padding by the Jets and Davante Adams lately, Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams do have unbelievable chemistry and knowledge together. So to have a game where Davante Adams was talking about he only wanted to play because he had a chance to catch Aaron Rodgers' 500th touchdown pass, to hold him to the kind of game that they did. Garrett Wilson didn't have much of anything until the final, again, 2 garbage time drives. It was a really, really strong performance.
And the only record that Aaron Rodgers broke was being sacked the most of any quarterback of all time
in NFL history. Plus, he did, honestly, for as much as I hate on Aaron Rodgers, he does not have very many 2 interception games in his entire career, and now
one
has
against Bakari Rambo.
Now has Bakari Rambo was one, and now has another one in Buffalo here. So he does not have a ton of multi-interception games in his career. He is usually exceptional at protecting the ball. So having 2 of those here today, just want to credit the defense. I know it wasn't perfect. I think there was a couple plays. Cole Bishop wasn't in a great spot. Somebody might give Matt Milano a hard time for the one play on Davante Adams, but it's Davante Adams. Like I don't expect Matt Milano to like chase down Devontae Adams in the open field. Like, yeah, Devontae Adams is faster than Matt Milano. That's not any linebacker on any wide receiver one is never a good setup. So that's not. I thought Milano looked good today, and the defensive line looked phenomenal. Having so many different guys make impact plays and look good was really, really encouraging. And again, you can grade on a curve. The Jets' offensive line has not been great, but they took advantage of it and dominated in a game they were supposed to. So,
and early in the
really
game,
excited.
the defense was getting pushed around a little bit in the tier. They were running the ball on the Bills a little bit early in this game, but the defensive line then kind of stood. You saw the fourth down stop. Pretty much a microcosm of this Bills defense, which is giving up all those yards, but stopping when you need to. And we saw that as the game went on, which has also been indicative of this Bills defense, is they get kind of in those scripted plays, pushed around a little bit. Then they kind of see what you're trying to do and they stuff it out. And you're right. We did see it.
RC's comment's fantastic. 4 quarterbacks played today, but only 3 got touchdowns.
Yeah.
Mitch Trubisky with an awesome touchdown. Terrell Shavers, his first career catch in the NFL is a 69-yard touchdown. Like
Shavers Hive, stand up.
That's pretty fantastic. Tyra Taylor ends up with 2 in garbage time here today.
Those were gifts from the Mafia to our.
Yeah. You want to know what I did? I love the fact that Bills Mafia cheered him when he came in the game. I love the fact that McDermott dapped him up after the second one and came over and talked with him and, said hi. I love that he got some love. Always huge fans of Tyrod Taylor here.
I love Tyrod, yeah.
Being such a huge part of breaking the playoff drought. We'll always have some love for him.
Yep.
Anything else on the defensive side before we flip over to the offense?
Yeah. One thing I'm kind of interested in, though, now that it seems that the real football's ended for the year, I know starters will play, is I want to really go back and watch Matt Milano closely because I do think he was fine this week, but he does still look a step slow. And I want to figure out where is the sort of ROI on his processing, his experience, coaches' trust in him versus the lacking of athleticism and what Dorian Williams does have. We are hearing the calls from fans. Is Dorian Williams the guy? We kind of heard Sean McDermott talk about those decisions that are going to have to be made as they get into the postseason. And then the other position, I did a video on this right before the game started, was how does Cole Bishop play? And I know that he was out of position a couple of times, but he does a lot of the things that I've said that I really like about Damar Hamlin. And so I don't want to be inconsistent and stand for Damar Hamlin. I have a concern that Hamlin hasn't played now in a month. I don't know if he'll be back next week to get some reps in here before they go in the postseason. I don't feel great about him not having any live reps heading into the postseason. And kind of another thing Sean McDermott talked about was those live reps and playing with each other. Was the play good enough from Cole Bishop with Rapp to give the coaches the idea that they could go into the postseason with that? So those are some things on the defensive side outside of this game that I'm really going to, even within this game, I'm really going to focus on when I look at the film this week is Matt Milano good enough to roll into the postseason with? I think the answer is yes. I want to take a deeper look at it. And then where are we at safety? Because with the injury of Hamlin and with Bishop kind of getting better a little bit week to week, I think there's a real discussion that's going to be had in that room.
Yeah. So first, Padden, every Gladiator reference will be read aloud here. So the have I missed it? Have I missed the battle, Father? So I love the reference there.
Side note, pulling behind the curtain, I haven't seen that movie.
You've never seen Gladiator?
Never seen Gladiator.
I went to the theater by myself to see Gladiator 2, which is awesome. It was excellent. Mm-hmm. You got to fix that. That's weird. How have you? I need to reevaluate.
There's a lot of weird things about
choices.
Me. There's a lot of weird things about me.
How have you never?
I know.
God,
my wife said that about me, but she never.
I am going to be distracted for the rest.
My
of the
wife
show.
had the same reaction that you did. She's like, "What?" But I'll tell you this: she never saw Back to the Future until we met. Come on. Yeah. So that's a side note. We digress.
Yeah, you're going to completely derail me here. Yeah. All right. So as we switch over to the offensive side, Bryant here saying, "Go Bills, MVP performance and a great way to clinch the 2 seed." This does put everything to bed. I know there is a great case for Lamar Jackson. However, it is a narrative award. Lamar Jackson has already won twice. I think they're going to give Josh Allen his first MVP before they give Lamar Jackson his third. The only scenario where that could really come into question was if the Bills dropped one of these games they're supposed to win to fall out of the 3 seed. And in theory, let Baltimore surpass them to take the 2 seed as they fell to the 3 seed. That would have been the one scenario I could have seen. But now being 2 games ahead of them in the win-loss record and looking phenomenal and having his own case, like, again, both quarterbacks have had MVP caliber seasons.
Yeah.
There are tons of scenarios where in a vacuum, both of them would have won. Both of them are better than Lamar Jackson's season last year. Both of them are better than Lamar and Josh's season last year. They're both having great seasons. Josh is going to win. It's not even debatable. Josh is going to win because it's humans voting on a thing, and they're going to vote for Josh Allen because he hasn't won one and has enough little notches. The way that Tony Romo said it at the end of the thing, there's going to be enough people. I don't think he's going to be unanimous. I don't think he's going to be like 45 votes, but it's going to be 35 votes to 15 votes. And maybe 2 votes go to Saquon Barkley or something like that. They're not going to. And as RJ puts here, somebody will try to say co-MVP. That's not the way that it works. It's based on votes, and I don't think there's going to be an even split between those two. I think it'll be like 35 votes for Josh, 13 for Lamar, and 2 for Saquon.
Yeah. I'm so exhausted by the entire conversation that I hope this put it to bed. I'm sick of, like, I am a fan also, so I'm not going to like just talk down to fans, but I'm sick of the way fans are arguing this. Like, one, our points aren't going to sway voters. Like, why are we're just arguing with other wacky fanatics about their guy who has a legitimate case. Like,
he's awesome. Yes, Lamar Jackson's awesome.
We don't have to tear down one to prop up another. Like, they both have cases that are good, and I think one is slightly better than the other this year. But to your point, a lot of it is because of the exhaustion of him winning multiple ones, and that Josh hasn't won one yet, and it is narrative based, in my opinion. I got to the point here in this last week. I was talking with Drew of the Rockpile Report, and it was like, I almost want Saquon to win just so all these people that have been arguing can just shut up, like, and just have to eat on that and chew on that. But no, I don't personally care about who wins the award. I'll celebrate. I'll retweet all the cool images when Josh gets. I'll be happy for him. But the discourse around this in-season award has gotten so out of control that it's exhausting. I'm glad that it's going to be over here.
Yeah. And then, honestly, neither fan base actually cares. They only care who wins in the playoffs, and both quarterbacks care a lot more.
Yeah.
They both have the same monkey on their back of not being able to get their team to the Super Bowl, and only one is going to have a chance to do that because you both can't go to the Super Bowl, and it's a chance that neither does because you got to get through Mahomes and the boogeyman out in KC. So
I got a question for you because you're way older than me. I just wanted that to sit there. You're a little bit older than me. Not a lot older than me. It's a little bit. But no,
enough that you get to make that joke.
Yeah. Was it like this, like during the Kelly years for people where like they couldn't appreciate John Elway or a Dan Marino? Like, I know Marino's one's tough because everybody hated the Dolphins, but like, I remember being able to grow up and love the Bills and love Jim Kelly and love what other quarterbacks also did and appreciate them. And I'm still that way. Like, watching Lamar Jackson's fun to me, Greg. I enjoy. I think he's fantastic. I love watching the guy.
The only time I don't root for him is when we're playing him or when there's like literally a direct seeding impact or something that like directly. Otherwise, it's fun. I have him in fantasy. Like, he's awesome. So one of the things where our age difference is that I was just a little bit older during that Super Bowl run to where like I was sitting down watching all the games during the seasons and all those different things. I wasn't old enough to know like what the media elements were, but the media was so less abrasive that it is.
There wasn't debate shows, right?
Correct. Like, there was no debate there. Obviously, pardon the interruption, started all of this. It's I love Tony Kornheiser and Michael Wilbon. Mm-hmm. They ruined everything 25 years ago and started down this path. And now we have Stephen A. Smiths and, all the other Skip Baylesses and the way worse people than that. I'm not even going to give any shout to. But because that wasn't there, I don't think there was this hyper the one-upsmanship. So I'm sure there was, I know Browns fans hated John Elway because of what he did to them directly, but I don't think you had the same thing of like, so we didn't like Marino because of what he did to us. He didn't in the playoffs. Like, you never really got us in the playoffs. But I don't necessarily know if it was ever like, oh, I have to take down your guy because it makes our guy lesser or anything like that. Like maybe,
Weird.
honestly, at that time, it might have been Bills fans trying to argue about like the scrimmage all around elements that Thurman should have been in the discussion with Barry and Emmett, because he never did. He never got put in those discussions. It was always Barry and Emmett by themselves.
Right.
And Bills fans would be like, hey, Thurman's the guy who's led the NFL in all-purpose yards the last 4 years, and like he should have been in those discussions. And because
but he won an MVP.
Correct. Yes.
Right, like,
yes. A great call. But Thurman Thomas legitimately won an NFL MVP during that stretch of the 92 season. So yeah, I think it was less so. I think it was less so than the. I mean, I take that back. It's significantly less than it was now, but I don't know that it was zero back then. I just think way less.
Yeah, we didn't have the access to it, right? No social media, no none of these debate shows. So yeah,
everything's worse now. Everything's worse now.
Feels like days.
So obviously, the reason that we are. I'm very comfortable saying that Josh Allen has locked up the MVP is because today he went 16 to 27 for 182 yards, 2 touchdowns, ran 5 times for 17 yards and another touchdown. Did that in a incredibly efficient manner. 3 touchdowns, a couple of them some really cool highlight plays. Even had a couple highlight plays taken back.
Oh, the incompletions were the best highlights of the day. Some of those throws that he made.
We'll get to the one where he was rolling to the right and put it on a dime that I think they were actually giving Keon a little bit hard of a time. Like coming back and going down at the top of your shoelaces to make that catch would have been a really tough catch. It would have been cool if he got it. And I get there's a lot of people who have the baseline of, hey, if you're an NFL receiver and it hits your hands, you're supposed to catch it. I'll allow that. That was a tough catch. Like that wasn't a drop. That was a tough catch. But it would have been really cool if he made it because that throw was insane. Insane.
And also, I actually think the throw to Khalil Shakir was even more insane because he was grabbed by the foot and falling and threw it on a dime. Yes. And Sherwood made a very good play on the ball. Like it was
that was a legit PBU. That was just a broken up play. That wasn't on Shakir.
But it hit him right in the hands. Like it was incredible. The falling backwards. That's just all arm. Like the mechanics are gone. They're wiped out of the play, and he's just falling down. Anyone else, that's like a grounder 5 yards ahead of them and maybe even picked off. Just put it on a rope right into his hands.
Get that intercepted, even trying to get it 50, because that was like 10 yards from the line of scrimmage. So that was probably like 15 to 17 yards in the air while you're being pulled by an NFL defensive lineman on one foot, and you're like, nah, I can still do it.
It didn't go for a completion, but as impressive as like the Mahomes totally horizontal making throws, like those kind of things. It's a bummer that neither one of those hit because that would have absolutely solidified any conversation about MVP.
Mitch Trubisky with maybe the nicest box score of the season, 1 of 1, 69 yards, touchdown.
Nice.
It's hard to be nicer than that.
69 yards.
I guess I know some of this is watered down because of the kneel downs at the end and the just straight clock milking handoffs at the end, but the fact that on paper it's 34 carries for 97 yards at 2.9 yards a carry, I think kind of takes away from what the game was like. But it really was. So I guess last week we both got frustrated with Josh for the big play hunting. Today is the good side of that coin, is when he goes big play hunting, but he gets his target.
Sure.
It turns out really cool because this was not our most efficient offensive performance. It was a lot of taking advantage of good field position. We'll get to the defense on the drive by drive. They were phenomenal. But cashing in on those situations because we didn't need a ton of yards and then hitting big plays when you needed them because, 16 to 27 is not the most efficient completion percentage he's had. 2.9 yards per carry. And even without the kneel downs and the end of the game stuff, it was still like 3.5 or 4 yards per carry tops. So it was not the most efficient one, but there were so many big plays that it didn't really matter.
Yeah, and honestly, like to start the game, you were leaning into the run a little bit more. I think it was like the second drive maybe where it was like cook, and it was nice. Yeah. And I think I agree with you. Some of the inefficiencies came when they were getting 30-yard touchdown passes, 20, like that takes off the need to really lean into the run. When you have good field position, you're capitalizing on some explosive pass plays, you're going to take that away. But I thought in terms of just like in a vacuum, the way James Cook was running, I love taking this into the postseason because I think there's going to be times, whether it's drives or entire games, you're going to have to lean into that a little bit. But really the most fun part about this, and it's kind of crazy that we're still this far into Josh Allen's career playing outdoors in Buffalo, where like even in the Discord, and I saw it online, people were concerned about the 15 to 20 mile an hour winds. And every time this happens, Greg, I'm like, one, he proved it in the most windy game in the history of games that the Bills didn't allow him to pass early, but when they needed to and he went late, he was passing fine. Like he was thrown into the wind and doing it fine. 15 to 20 is nothing for Josh Allen. He's weatherproof. And so like
I would say you could even make the case that there's a window there where it is legitimately an advantage for us because he's so much better in those like 15 to 25 mile an hour gusts than other quarterbacks would be.
Correct.
That it not only impacts them, but it impacts the other guy way
at
more
a higher variance. Yeah,
yes.
At a much higher variance. And he's even said like not only any windy conditions where he can travel anywhere and play in those, but specifically in Buffalo, he's played here long enough where he knows how, like what side of the field, what parts of the field the wind hits in different spots. And it's true down there. And so I would encourage people to, when the weather forecast comes out and it's like a little bit wet or a little bit windy, like it doesn't matter to us as much.
I've already had some of my weather nerdier friends DM me about the upcoming weather patterns for when the home playoff game is going to be and how it's going to be crazy. Like, all right, okay.
It hurts the other people. Like you don't. I think it hurts Lamar Jackson more to have to play in weather conditions than it hurts Josh Allen.
If the worst case scenario that everybody's petrified of, I don't want to play the Bengals, but I don't care. We could beat the Bengals just fine. Yeah. If it ends up being the Bengals, would you mind it if it was 30 mile an hour winds and crazy snow that they can't run and pass and it's whoever?
People will point to that blizzard game, but again, that had so much context. There's so much stuff. Yeah, there's so much stuff going on in that one. But yeah, no, I think any matchup where it is weather, I would take Josh Allen. He's weatherproof, guys. Like at least at that aspect of the Bills team, he can throw in it, and he showed that here today.
Yeah. Appreciate you, Sophia. That means a lot. Thank you. And like she said, hit that like button. Help us out. Get that out there in front of everybody. The receiving game today, I wish I could see who. I think it was either Adam or Uber, one of our guys that cover one, made the point that it looked like they were consciously trying to get certain guys the ball in the game today. And I don't think it's an accident that the leading targets were, Keon Coleman, Amari Cooper, Dalton Kincaid, that they were trying to get those guys the ball a little bit more as we get ready for the playoffs. I think that there were some, I don't know about concerns, but just some people, not worried about like, are we getting those guys into the game as much as we should? Do they have the opportunity to make the impact that they should? I love the fact that they got them some nice touches, got them involved, got them both a touchdown. Cooper and Coleman, both a touchdown here today. Khalil Shakir is always going to be a key part of this offense and able to help move the chains in the way that he does. But I liked it that they worked with some of those other guys and got them some opportunities to get into the game plan. And honestly, to get the film out there, they're like, hey, you got to worry about everybody. You can't give a pass on anybody. And that you look at the efficiency of this, Terrell Shavers, one catch went for a touchdown, but Cooper 3 for 3. The one got called back by a penalty. He would have had a fourth one. Mac Hollins only had 2 targets today, but both of them were critical first downs.
Huge when diving we needed catch them. Too.
Really tough catch on the one. Keon had some tough situations. He had one that was a tip ball that ended up being I don't know if it was dropped, but the Romo pointed out that like, hey, that came out wobbly after the tip ball, so he wasn't able to catch it. And then the other jump ball, the one where there was a good breakup by Sauce Gardner in the end zone, but he high points the other one, makes a couple other tough catches. Dalton Kincaid gets both of his. 9 different receivers making a catch, and now I'd love to see where the stat is of like most different receivers leading the team in receiving yardage in a game, because now Terrell Shavers led today. So crazy. Another different receiver. We also tied the NFL record for most different receivers catching a touchdown pass with 13 different receivers catching a touchdown pass. We just need one big man touchdown next week and we could do it. And they did. They had it in there. The play that got called back by penalty, Alec Anderson didn't make himself eligible because Deion Dawkins was making himself eligible, they were going for a touchdown to Deion on that play before it got messed up.
Yeah, and didn't they get most touchdowns in franchise history today?
They broke the record for most touchdowns in franchise history and the most points in franchise history with a game to go. We've already broke the record for the most points in franchise history with a game to go. And like, you half joking, but seriously, in the offseason, like in a rebuilding year, in a year where we have like 60 some million in dead cap, in a year where everyone was picking the Dolphins and the Jets to win the division. And we've known for a long time that wasn't going to be the case, but everyone kind of managed expectations a little bit. A lot of it was like, hey, I still think we can win the division, but people weren't saying it with their chest in the preseason. It was like, hey, we still have Josh Allen. Anytime you have Josh Allen, there's a chance. But nobody was, as automatic as what it was in other scenarios. We just broke the team record for the most touchdowns and the most points with a game to go.
Yeah.
In a season where we, and gave away Stephon Diggs with no input. We didn't get anything for Stephon Diggs yet. Like, any of the return we get is in next year's draft. We got nothing. We just ate a $30 million dead cap hit and got nothing until next year's draft. That kind of scenario is phenomenal.
Patton points out here, most points in franchise history, a game early with Josh sitting out a full game's worth of quarters.
Yes.
Because of blowouts.
4 games he sat the fourth quarter. Yeah. 1 to 4 games worth of production.
This feels like it's an entirely offensive stat, and it's heavily offense in Josh Allen, but the defense, this was an example of today of the defense giving them the ball back and allowing them to capitalize on shorter fields and stuff like that. And in net yards or net points, which Adam Pencil put out a tweet today showing the net points, which is a great one with all these bad stats floating out about the defense, which I'm not defending a lot of those, but one good one is net points, and they are second to the Lions, who have also been blowing out teams at a high clip this season. No other teams are able to hold teams to less and get more out of it than the Bills and Lions.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal to be able to see it that way.
Yeah.
I think today was a good offensive line performance. I would say the offensive line performance was probably not as good as what the 0 sack show in the box score, because Josh had to run for his life a couple times. Will McDonald was right there a couple times. We had a couple holding calls because of guys getting in there, so it was probably an okay pass blocking performance. And then run blocking was fine. I think, like you said, it was effective. We were getting decent yardage early on. I don't think there was anything phenomenal in the spots where they were at. So here from producer Chris, I think Dan Fetz had this quote from the postgame presser from Sean McDermott. They have this saying about stats. Look, Josh Allen is the MVP. I've been around the league long enough to know no offense, no offense to anybody else, but I have a hard time believing anyone else has done more. Yeah. I love the fact that Sean McDermott is a pretty conscious person about what he says, especially in press conferences and things like that. So him putting that out there, I think really, carries a lot of weight in saying that, hey, he's been around this league for a long time, knows what it looks like, and that, Josh Allen is the MVP, and he's going to be. Like, I'm not. And he should Josh Allen is going to be the MVP.
Correct. He should say. Zach Taylor said it last night also.
Yeah, and he should feel that way about his guy too.
Correct.
He should feel that way about his guy.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow's been awesome.
Yeah, totally. And both those teams do feel that, like, we aren't where we're supposed to be, or where we are.
John Harbaugh should feel that way too.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not wrong. I think that you have to come out, you have to defend your guy. I do think that some members of the media took the Bills offensive line giving the necklace a little too, I think they were saying he's our MVP more than they were crowning him early
or predicting anything.
But
like I said, it doesn't matter because he's going to.
Yeah.
He's going to win the MVP. Right. It's going to end up being predictive. It's going to end up being looking great, because this is going to be the season when he is going to win the MVP.
Yeah. Back to the offensive line. Today, the only thing that is kind of sticking out in my head was the Jets have some decent pass rushers, and Josh was able to elude it. But speaking of Burrow, and he still had a really great game, watching that Denver Broncos defensive line and the blitzing and stuff that Denver does. I know
7 times.
I know a lot of people are scared of the Bengals, and I get those legitimate concerns of quarterback and Chase Young or Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and what they can do offensively. But that Broncos team, like I don't think there's a lot of teams that can slow us down too much on offense, but the way to do it is to get at Josh Allen. And the Jets got close a few times today and stumbled some of these drives early. Don't sleep on what the Broncos could, like, I don't think you're dropping 40 on them.
Yeah. A quick one. Really clean special teams game today.
I would say a really good special teams.
Yeah. I was even going through, like, I didn't give up anything. The longest return we gave up was a 29-yarder.
They did give up a long one that got called back on a holding.
Okay, there you go. Early. There you go. That was one.
But again, the holding, I think, sprung it.
So, yeah, correct.
Sam Martin pinned him.
Had an awesome, like Dante Hall looking spin move.
He did.
Sam Martin had 2 awesome punts and 1 fine punt of what was there, pinned him down inside. Like, he was a huge contributor to the safety that came up. And Tyler Pass was 6 for 6, and everything was very clean. There weren't any squeakers, no doinkers, none that looked bad. Most of them were dead center. Really, really clean game. So that's all you can ask for.
In the wind. We saw Bengals miss a field goal last night in overtime. Like, it's been a weird year, so I'm not going to discredit any success in field goal kicking when you're looking clean. That's good to see heading into the postseason. And I said it during the game, Greg, that I feel like Codrington is like a boiling teapot, just ready to pop off at any point here into the postseason. I think I'm going to go out on a hot take and say we get a Codrington return touchdown that springs a big moment of momentum in a playoff game here coming up.
Love that energy. I love it. Yeah. Love that call. All right, so let's go into the drive by drive, and I think for the first time this year, my West Herr drive of the game is the opening drive of the game. So huge shout out to our friends over at West Herr. Awesome sponsors for us. We love working with Brad and the whole team over there. Again, biggest auto dealership in New York State, one of the biggest employers in Western New York. I have the opening drive, 12 plays, 70 yards, coming right out and just making it clear that, hey, this is not going to be the same kind of trip over our feet, ugly game that we saw against New England. I don't know that it was any less vanilla per se, but there was more motion today than there was last week. And I don't think that motion is some secret that's like showing anything of our strategy that we're, taking away what, oh man, I didn't know the Bills were going to run motion. Like we've run some of the highest motion rate in the league. As James says here, it was a very chippy drive. It already got started. We know Michael Clemens and Sean and Deion Dawkins hate each other. I think everybody hates Alec Anderson. I kind of love that Alec Anderson is the antagonist in all these different situations. But we come right out. We actually get a couple third downs that are a little bit anxious. We end up getting a nice pickup with Shakir early on, getting the first one. Then we already get some of the penalties get started. We get one that moves us forward. We get another one that moves us back, gets us a 2nd and 17. Then they give us the penalty back. To convert on a first down on an incompletion that would have made it 3rd and 17. That there was another one on DJ Reed. We start moving a little bit more. We get ourselves into a good position. Then we get a holding call that takes back that 37-yarder to Coleman, where he went up and got the ball. So Coleman could have had an even bigger game. That gets called back. And then we end up seeing Matt Collins wide open on the play, get another run, then go back to Hollins for a really nice diving catch. Get the play to Dalton Kincaid, they end up getting down to the goal line and then get the tush push to push it in. And the reason I have this as my West Herr drive of the game is just setting the tone for what it was going to be. I thought it was really big for game script. We talk about how impactful this team is when you get out to a lead and get the other team having to be one-dimensional. That's when our defense, or you see today, like there's a different scenario here where a team like the Jets with Braylon Allen and Breece Hall end up being able to lean on us and take advantage of the size of our defensive line, take advantage of that if they get out to an early start. this is what they need to do in the playoffs, getting out to an early lead, establishing the tone, being able to set that as the early part and flipping that game script to start making it more and more one-sided is going to be a huge part if they go on the run that we all want them to here. And I thought that was a perfect way to start this game today.
Yeah, going 12 plays, 7 minutes basically off the clock, just leaving Aaron Rodgers in that offense out. This was exactly kind of what the Patriots did to the Bills in the last game, where it's like then you start to press a little bit if you aren't successful on that first drive offensively in response to this one. It makes it really hard on your team because you've taken, I know I'm not a big believer in time of possession matters a ton, but in these individual, like when you kind of look at the game and sliver it up into possessions, to be able to get a 7-minute possession that ends in 7 is a huge benefit. And I think it spikes that win probability right out of the gate for you to be able to do that. So I love that you started with this one as the drive of the game. It's not mine. Mine will still be to come later. And it's more based on highlight plays than necessarily an entire drive. I do think this was the best overall holistic drive that the Bills had.
Yeah, and there's always going to be, fun pieces to that when we go through. So I like that we started out there. And I think it's a perfect microcosm of the defense you've been describing all year. The first possession for the Jets was, almost matching us. They went 10 plays, 48 yards. They ended up moving their way down the field. I made the comment about the third down conversions because they didn't need to. They kept getting first downs without needing it and moving their way down the field, converting on second down over and over and over again. Moving their way down the field. We do then finally get them into a negative spot. They get a holding call, and the holding call was very impactful because Matt Milano was there to make the tackle, and Breece Hall wouldn't have been able to get out there. Simpson tackled Milano and pulled him down at the point of attack, so that takes it back to 2nd and 11. They still get a big chunk of that back, get it to 3rd and 1. You get then the play that I think is a great kind of synopsis of the Jets season was Aaron Rodgers could have ran easily for the first down, or if he simply puts it into a good spot, he underthrows Kenny Boy and ends up missing there on what would have been an easy touchdown.
Yeah.
And instead they get to 4th and 1, then they get stuffed. Gregory Rousseau blows up Braylon Allen, 4th down, turnover on downs, and now they get the ball back to the Bills.
Yeah, I love this drive. Although this one did have a little bit of luck built in, so I'm not going to take the victory lap for the Bills. But this is a microcosm of them. I put out a bunch of statistics in a post of the good, bad, and the ugly of this Bills defense. And what's ugly about it is runs to the second level. They're 17th, I think, in runs in the second level. And you saw that over and over again on this drive where they were just getting through that interior, getting out on the edges, getting to the linebackers, forcing a little bit of a slower Matt Milano to come up and tackle, right? You get Bernard, who's kind of playing some deep zone coverage, having to come up and make tackles. And that is the way to beat this Bills team, is to get on the perimeter, get a big offensive lineman on Taron Johnson, get these smaller guys to move and come up and tackle in the run game. But then the Bills are first in stuffed run, in power success run. They don't allow you to just blast it on 4th and 1, on 3rd and 1, even though their statistics on 3rd down overall aren't good. And it did take a little luck of Rodgers missing a open walk-in touchdown. But to your point, great synopsis of that season, because you could see even like Aaron Rodgers is such a, like, I don't want to get demonetized. So he's such a, like, he doesn't look like a guy that I think a lot of guys enjoy, besides Devontae Adams, necessarily enjoy playing with, because he looked frustrated with everyone but himself because he hit somebody in the calf on a walkout and like the guy was supposed to do something different. God forbid it was Aaron Rodgers' fault. Actually on Instagram, I saw a side-by-side of Aaron Rodgers answering a question about a blown play and Josh Allen answering a question about a blown play. And it was Aaron Rodgers was like, well, Lazard was supposed to do this, and Mike Williams was supposed to do this, and they read me wrong. And then Josh Allen was like, I got to be better in that. So it was like completely different. And that's why one is our MVP, and I think the MVP, and the other one is kind of getting his name dragged all around the league.
100%. David Fox had a really good play of like that. It's such a Rodgers play to be complaining when you underthrew the receiver, when you also could have just trotted for the easy gimme first down. Either one, like you had it readily available, the gimme touchdown or the gimme first down. You got neither, and then got your running back blown up on the next play.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the Bills could not capitalize. They get the ball back here. And again, this is where the flags became just an obnoxious impact on this game. We had a first down that was called back. That Josh Allen has scrambled for the first down, got that called back. We then get it to where we had a shot that, again, Khalil Shakir, the play got broken up on the one that was there. And then we get another penalty that knocks it back to 3rd and 21. So it ends up, it's hard to convert from 3rd and 21. We end up getting to 4th and 12 and get a nice punt by Sam Martin, puts it for 47 yards, puts him into a decent position. And it looks like the Jets are going to drive back again. This is one where, like, all right, man, I felt like we had a chance to put our foot on the throat and really, 14-0 would put this game away. Now we gave the ball back to the Jets. They're driving their way back down, 17 yards to Hall, then get 9 yards to Adams, then a 28-yarder to Garrett Wilson, starting to feel like, oh man, we're going to let them back in this game. And then we get a tip pass up in the air, falls into the hands of Jordan Phillips. And who tips the ball up in the air? Greg Rousseau. You've been on that train all year, just wreaking havoc, making big plays. And again, a play that not a lot of people are going to they're going to remember Jordan Phillips. They're not going to remember that it's because Gregory Rousseau got his hands up to be able to pop that up there.
Yeah. When you have like 9.5 feet of limbs to just like, dude, that's why you draft freak guys that are just have total physical traits. This was part of my good, bad, and ugly on the defense is you got Von Miller, who's tied for 9th in pressure PRP, which is based on per snap. So it's a good indicator of how guys are performing within the snaps they got, right? He's 100 and something less snaps than average pass rushers. And he's 9th in that in getting pressures and impacting the quarterback. But then you have Greg Rousseau, who's 8th in havoc among all defensive ends. And havoc is tackles for loss, tipped ball, like all these plays that result in positive plays for the defense. And so it's not just sacks. I think we all look to, this is another thing I think the media has done a disservice to fans. It's things like net yards and things of these natures where, yeah, sacks are cool, and I would prefer that the drives on third downs end in a sack versus a pressure. Like I am not arguing against that, but they're fluky, and you don't always get double-digit sacks. Isn't always a way to determine who is and isn't a good at pressuring a quarterback and impacting a play. So we have better stats, and the Bills' edges are actually good in those statistics. I think the issue has been the consistency in lacking some of that pass rush, and really from the interior. But you saw it here where they're able to make a play, and again, this is. People chalk a lot of these turnovers and stuff up to luck. Knowing how to read a quarterback, getting your hands up in passing lanes, like those are fundamentals that are taught in practice during the week and in training camps and stuff like that. And this is where you reap the benefits of it. There's a little bit of luck in a big guy like Jordan Phillips coming down with the ball. But kudos, I know he removed your big man touchdown. And honestly, I'm a little disappointed because it was a smart play, like in a vacuum, for him to just go down and not have anything crazy happen. But again, here on this next drive, Craig, the Bills don't return the Buffalo Bills defense with a positive play. And how many times have we had these conversations where like your defense is the flaw? I'm not ever going to come out and say they're better. They're the strength of this team. They're the flaw. And so being a part of your team that is the flaw, it's almost more important that when they do their job, you have to reward
Gotta
it.
capitalize.
You have to, and they didn't here.
And obviously, we'll see a stretch here in the second half where they do over and over again.
Yes.
But here in the first half again, after the last one, we get the stop on downs. Here we get the interception. It's not nothing. We go 10 plays, 39 yards. We do get multiple first downs. This one's kind of matriculating the ball. There's 8 yards to Cook, 8 yards. This is the 4 straight touches to Cook where he gets those first 4 go for 25 yards. Then we get, Shakir, Ray Davis comes in the game, pass to Coleman. We're moving our way down. And then we start to get some of the penalties and some of the different, negative plays. And, on 3rd and 9, we take a deep shot to Coleman. We miss it. We need to punt. But this is the one that gets pinned down at the 5-yard line. So again, we do flip field position. We're able to take it because Phillips' interception was all the way back at our own 17, so we had to move a long ways. They do get some of that, and then we get a really nice punt down to the 5-yard line that's able to get it back there. And this one's a fantastic combo where you get the penalty first because the crowd is going crazy, gets Conklin to jump. Then we get a stuff on Braylon Allen that gets it back even further to the 2. And then AJ Epinesa just smokes the left tackle off the line. Pure speed rush, gets around there, and Aaron Rodgers cannot get the ball out fast enough. He has to pat the ball once. It's supposed to be a 3-step slant route to Devontae Adams. We have our guys up pressing. Again, I know we get a lot of negative stuff on, why they play soft zone. Sometimes they don't always. They were up there pressing. That's what took away the slant on this route. That's what caused the safety. AJ Epinesa then finishes, gets the safety. All of a sudden, 2 possession lead because we're up 9-0, and really help take advantage of it.
Yeah, and really inspired by defense here to get you that second point, even though you're only up 9-0. It's still an offense that's struggling and turning the ball over. Absolutely great complementary football between, I think you brought up a good point where I was frustrated with the offense, but getting the ball to where Sam Martin can pin you it's not points. It doesn't show up on the box score. It doesn't help you in a lot of the advanced analytics. It doesn't make the EPA fantastic, but it is a win within the game itself, and being able to pin deep again. We mostly have there's been maybe 1 or 2 times where we've come on this show and been frustrated with Sam Martin. Like I know a lot of people were concerned they lost Trevor Ariza with everything that happened with him, and you had to bring in Sam Martin. The dude has done a really good. This is one of the harder places to punt. Today's conditions weren't any better for punting with that type of wind, and he's done a really nice job. And this one was another one where he just pins them deep, and there should be some type of statistic for punters when you get a safety because they were pinned deep by the punt team and special teams. And we give Smiley so much crap, but kudos to him for his team coming down covering that. Yeah. I've seen so many of those where the ball gets dropped and then it goes into the end zone. So coverage was good. They did everything they needed to and complemented each other. And Sean McDermott loves that.
Sespenar here with the question about, does the lack of money stats really affect the contract Groot can expect? Yes and no.
I think the money Christian Benford's going to get might impact it.
Maybe. Jonathan Grenard's a good example. Jonathan Grenard had never had a double-digit sack season and was more of like, hey, he's got a lot of pressures. It could work out. He's still got like $23 million a year because the teams who are doing the bidding are well aware of how talented Groot is. If we want to keep him, it's going to cost us a ton. It's going to cost us 4 years and $100 million. Like it really might cost us $25 million a year to keep Groot. Now, that's why I haven't ranked him as high as Khalil Shakir and Terrell Bernard and Christian Benford, because it is so much money that there is a chance we say, yeah, man, we're not going to be able to do it. I still think we end up keeping Groot. I hope that we keep Groot, but if we keep him, it's going to be $1 bajillion. It's going to cost a ton of money. So, I would say the fact that he's having a really high, he's going to be like top 5, top 8 in pressures. And the fact that he's doing that is why it's going to be 23, 25 million. If he had like an 18 sack season on the year, it could have gone to 30 million, and it could have gone way up there, to some of those really, really high numbers. So I think, I guess technically it could affect it, but it's just, he's going to be in the insanely high paid second tier, not in the Bosa, Micah Parsons, TJ Watt, Myles Garrett tier. He's going to be in the next one with the Jonathan Grenards and Daniil Hunters and all the other really, really good pass rushers there, but he's going to get a ton of money and he deserves it. He's great. He's really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And we always got to keep in mind when these contracts come out, like nobody's actually making that amount of, like, it'll get renegotiated and flip down the road and give him money and he'll take some bonus. Like it'll never be what it looks like the day he gets signed and people are going to see the contract and the agent puts it out there. It won't be that total number. It'll get moved around and shifted around, but he has deserved, and the Bills should do that. This is what exactly the path to building a good team is: drafting really well and then re-signing those guys that you've developed in-house. Groot is a great example. Actually, in the second half here, I have a great example of, I put out that tweet about who do you pay out of this big group of Bernard, Benford, Groot, Cook, Shakir, like all these guys. And there was a couple plays here coming up on a drive where both Benford and Groot made plays that just absolutely killed the Jets. And it's like, man, like that, those agents' values are just skyrocketing for the Bills.
Yeah, just rubbing their fingers. Just constant money.
Yeah.
So here, after that safety, obviously now you're in a spot. A couple of people had asked when they redid the kickoff rules, they changed it because you can't really do the free kick punt because you could punt it into where the guys are in that like new landing area where it's a lot more likely that a punt could land there than it is on a kick. So they've now made it into just a deeper kickoff.
Right.
So they do move it back. It is a deeper kickoff, but they're in that spot where it now is a little bit different for what was there. Hey mom. My mom's watching. Lifetime
Merry
fans who
Christmas.
languished through the 90s. We were ready. We were so ready. I can't wait. This is going to be a great playoff run. I can't wait to see it. The Bills do answer back here. Another nice drive. They get the 17-yarder to Amari Cooper that gets called back. So on the next play, they go right back to Amari Cooper for 17 more yards. They end up needing to do the tush push to convert on the first down. We then get a penalty that gets us up a little bit closer. They take a couple shots trying to get something there, but end up kind of running short on time. And I think it would have been nice if the one play, if they end up converting on the first down there, they could have taken the timeout and had maybe a shot or two into the end zone, because it would have been at like 18 seconds left, but they end up getting tackled for 4th and 2. And at that point, you got to just kind of take the field goal. So they probably could have had a chance to take another shot or two into the end zone because they had a timeout left, but you don't do that when you have a 2-minute drill field goal in your back pocket. So they end up taking the field goal. They go into halftime 12-0. And at that point, I'm feeling pretty good. Like it's not a guarantee. They've come up with some big plays, but we've seen the Jets make some drives and move the ball down the field a little bit. So we're feeling pretty good in that moment, but it hasn't been, it's not as celebratory as what the second half turns into.
Yeah, I saw a lot of outrage on the timeout usage at the end of the half, and I didn't understand that too much. Yeah, I thought it was totally fine.
I don't even know, like, Romo was trying to say, like, well, you had 2 timeouts. Maybe you could take a timeout and think about it. Like, what are you talking? Like, why would you?
And he also said it's not like kicking off with 13 seconds matters. It almost felt like a slight to trigger us.
It almost felt intentional.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like, what possible good would there be if you went for it? Like, yeah, there's still 20 seconds. You maybe, if you convert, you maybe get 2 throws from 20 yards out into the end zone.
And then you're still kicking.
Maybe. But even if you don't convert there, you still end up kicking. You have a chance of having something dumb happen, like a sack that knocks you back further out.
Which almost happened on one of the incompletions. Josh had to get rid of it, and it was very close to being a.
It should have been intentional grounding. He was.
We would yell if it was the other team.
He did not see Dalton Kincaid. He had no idea. He was facing the other direction and backhanded it. He had no clue Dalton Kincaid was over there, and they gave him complete, like, all right, Josh, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt. It was technically close to Dalton Kincaid. That was the definition of intentional grounding. He was intentionally grounding the ball to try to not get a sack.
Yeah, so a lot more in those moments. I think we forget about all the variables that can go wrong and only think about, like, well, we can do this. We've seen good things happen before. And so, yeah, I had no problems with that. But my moment, like how I was feeling at this time, I wasn't actually thrilled. Even though you were sort of dominating this game, they didn't score. I felt like the defense was pulling a little bit more of the weight than the offense was, and that the offense was a little clunky at times. And it felt like relying a little bit on, like, we're going to need Josh to do Josh things, which he did later in the game. But I kind of, and I was feeling in my head, like, I'm not going to get too mad at the offense. I'm not going to go out and start railing against the offense. They're the reason we're here. And I know that they're probably doing some vanilla stuff, and that's making it harder for them to put together long, sustained drives. But I didn't feel good that, hey, your defense is doing exactly what it needs to do, keeping the other team off the board, getting turnovers, and it's just kind of feeling clunky right now. And the game should have been a 20-something to nothing game, the way it was being played at this time. And you just left some meat on the bone in the first half. You did not. You scraped every bit of meat off of that bone here in the second half, though.
Yeah, correct. So, and it actually didn't start great in the second half, because we do get a stuff on our side of it where
this one was tough because they got pinned. Like,
correct. So the first one, you get a little bit of a drive by the Jets. They go down. They end up getting. In theory, maybe they count this as a third down conversion. They did get a penalty conversion. Cole Bishop got called on the illegal contact. That was. It was. That one was one of the legitimate ones. So technically, Aaron Rodgers had one third down conversion. It was on the penalty to Cole Bishop there. So I'll give him that one. But they move their way down. We end up getting they get a penalty that calls back some plays, gets them back to 2nd and 15.
Yep.
We get an incompletion on 3rd and 5. And then I kind of think they were going to go for it and then get a delay a game on 4th and 5. They were at our 37, so they were certainly in range. And then 4th and 10 is a weird spot to go for. Like, I'm not saying you should go for it on 4th and 10, but when you're down 12-0 in a throwaway season, you can't punt at your opponent's 42. Like, you're in our range. You got Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson. Like, it's fine. Like,
it's
in a vacuum,
the results play out in favor of it,
they end up
you
having
can't play the results.
A phenomenal punt that gets down to the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
So you can't blame them. It was a fantastic punt, but it's such a give up play.
It is.
So we end up kind of having to waste the first play just trying to not get stuffed for a safety. We do the quarterback sneak. We then hand it off and get a decent chunk of yards. And then this is the one where, it got tipped. It was the slant that would have gone to Coleman.
No.
He had that's not this one.
This one was where it was like Coleman against Reed on the outside, and it looked like maybe it was a pass interference, but Coleman slipped.
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
And he didn't get any call for illegal contact because he also slipped. It probably was illegal contact, but
maybe
he let him get away with it because he wasn't there.
I think if he didn't slip, he would have been able to use his body to box him out, but it was also good coverage. Like, if they called those ones against us, I'd be pissed. Like, those are the ones
DJ Reed's a stellar corner.
Yeah, those are technically maybe you could make the call, but I hate them when the refs call those ones. Like, let them hand fight a little bit.
And this one's tough. We're punting out of our own end zone. It's a 51-yard punt. In a perfect world, I would have loved a little bit more hang time to give him a chance to not
into the wind on this one.
But punting into the wind out of your own end zone for 51 yards, I'll take it. We give up a 13-yard return, but that's not
it wasn't
bad
blocked
in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, correct. But that's a spot right there where you're only up 12-0. If you give them a free touchdown on a block punt, that all of a sudden gives them momentum to get back into this game.
You just want it clean and get it out of your end zone, right? Like, clean snap, get that thing out. They did their job.
The defense dominates this next drive. Just fantastic. They do get a 13-yarder on the first play, but then we get a TFL with Oliver and Milano blowing it up on the next one. You then get a false start. Yeah, please.
Can I take over here? Sorry to interrupt you. But this is the drive I was talking about here, where I think that your future in some of the bigger contracts take over, because you do get that stuff on 2nd and 10, and they get a flag for a false start, moves them back to 2nd and 15. And then this is where Aaron Rodgers becomes the most sacked quarterback in the history of the NFL, because Gregory Rousseau blows this plays up, turns it into and this is complementary football within the defense itself, because you get them into 3rd and 19. And this is a position that Bills fans don't feel great. Any team being in 3rd and long, they give up a lot of stuff. And instead you get an overthrow by Aaron Rodgers, and Benford's right on top of it and gets a nice pick with a nice return. So it's really 2 toxic differential plays in one. But then we go over, we're past midfield. The Bills have the ball. You go to Cooper for 9 yards. You do that. This is where you had the 2nd and 1. It was a tipped pass drop to Coleman on the slant, where I don't think it should count as a drop. I don't know if it will, but that's the one. They end up sneaking it for a first. They get stuffed. This is probably the worst run play of the day, where James Cook gets -4 yards on a run.
Solomon Thomas just beat his guy. Yeah, I think he beat David Edwards and just blew it up in the backfield.
Just blew this one up. But then you get 2nd and 14 and an absolute, this is wide receiver 1. This is why you traded for Amari Cooper. He's covered in the back of the end zone. It's good coverage. It's good coverage in the back of the end zone. And he makes catches that, like, I think maybe Keon Coleman can make them to some extent, but like, not a lot of guys are making this catch, man. It was incredible. He's like laid out totally horizontally going to get that ball.
Like knocks the wind out of himself.
All of the wind came out of his body. His skull like jumped up out of his body for a second, hauls it in on a 2nd and 14 for a 30-yard touchdown play. And to me, this is the drive of the game, because one, it's complementary football where you get the turnover and then you get a big explosive play. The Bills have actually, Joe Marino has pointed this out a bunch. They haven't had these over 20-yard pass plays a bunch here in this stretch of being able to win and score points. They're not getting big explosive pass plays, which matters for touchdowns. And so it's a 5-play, 38-yard drive, takes 2 minutes off the clock. But more importantly, you go up 19-0. And that the way the Jets were playing, this felt like the arm length that you needed to just hold them. Even if they started to come out and get hot, you had enough here into the third quarter where this team wasn't making a comeback at this point. I felt pretty confident. So this is my West Her drive of the game. So shout out to the crew at West Her. You get 2 of them today from us. There could be more, but I'm just going to stick with 2 for now.
And the reason there could be more is they come right back. They get a quick 3 and out. In this one again, you get, Von Miller makes a nice tackle on the first one. You then get, Taryn making the nice play with Matt Milano pressure on the Devontae Adams catch on second down. And then on third down, you have Von Miller coming in for the sack and being able to
on that
finish
play
it
too.
Really nice bend, turn the corner so nice. If we get that guy in the playoffs, good Lord, what that could turn into. And again, he put a lot of his own money on the line there with the incentives there. He got 5 sacks now. He's
one away,
right? One more and he gets another nice chunk. And the biggest one is the biggest chunk of money is that he plays 30% of the snaps in the Super Bowl. That's the biggest chunk of money for him to get all as much of that back. So that's when everybody wants for him to earn that money back, because that would mean great things have happened. So here they go back, they get a 3 and out. Brandon Codrington has the crazy spin move, Dante Hall looking spin move, where he almost goes down, catches his balance with his hand, and then ends up with a really cool 25-yard return, which is huge because that brings it back where now the Bills are starting with the ball at the Jets 37. Right off the bat, we go to Dalton Kincaid for 13. Josh almost hits Quentin Morris for a corner and a touchdown in the corner. We end up having that be incomplete, but now we get the running play where James Cook's going for 3 yards, and Michael Clemens is just an idiot and comes and jumps on top of everybody on the pile, just throws his body, and he lands on his own teammate when he does it. But that's legitimately a penalty. They put that into the rule book that you can't jump on a pile because of the how dumb it is from a player safety standpoint.
And shout out to Deion Dawkins for not addressing that with something dumb. That was a moment where
could
I was
have been offsetting
Deion,
easily.
Don't do something here, because I know you want to punch him in the mouth, but please don't.
He did shove him.
he gave him a little shove.
As he came down, he gave him within the play before the whistle had gone. He did give him a little extra help on the way down, but that was it. That was just that much. We then got another penalty, illegal use of hands. There were 2 penalties on the next one. There's such an ugly flag fest at points here. And then you get James Cook for 4 yards. And then, honestly, I kind of thought they were going to do the tush push, and they gave James Cook maybe his only 1-yard touchdown of the season. I don't know if he has a lot of 1-yard touchdowns. Gave James Cook the touchdown. And this one, now all of a sudden, back-to-back, they only had 3 possessions in between, but you go interception, quick touchdown drive for the Bills, 3 and out, quick touchdown drive for the Bills, and now it's 26-0, and now it's a party and really feeling good.
I said that at this point, I was like, I'm ready to hear Mr. Brightside get the starters out of it. And we're in the third quarter. We had 2 minutes left in the third quarter at this point. And I was like, get them all out. Let's play Mr. Brightside and get on to the postseason. I'm actually glad the Bills didn't do it because, one, I'm playing the results here a little bit. No one got hurt further than this. But at that point, it's like, dude, this game's over. Let's wrap it up.
So I'm gonna say this is now in a 8-minute span.
Yeah.
The Bills scored 28 points in 8 minutes. There's 2 more coming here. So after the James Cook touchdown on the first play of the Jets, Aaron Rodgers throws it to Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson actually breaks the tackle initially, tries to run with it a little bit further. Ed Oliver punches it out. Aaron Rodgers has a chance to recover it. It recovers it and makes a business decision. So Matt Milano jumps on it. They easily should have been called on the field that he was down by contact, but they let it go, which is what they're trying to do. He takes it into the end zone. They bring it back. It's not a fumble return for a touchdown, but the Bills then have the ball at the 15-yard line. We get a penalty on the first one that ends up getting declined. We run the ball for 1 yard, and now we get the crazy across the field Josh Allen throw. This one's great because you can hear Tony Romo on the call kind of go, no, and instead Keon Coleman goes up and high points it. This one, honestly, is one where in the quarterback room, like, hey, that was awesome. Let's not do that. Let's not throw the ball across the field as just a jump ball that they could also come down with. It's awesome that he saw Keon. I like that he trusted Keon. Keon is a guy that's better than 50-50 in our favor, but that's also the kind of play that somebody that you're not seeing comes across your vision in the other direction and gets it before Keon can get to it. So awesome highlight. That was one of the plays where like, yeah, I'm okay if you don't try that one.
Yeah.
In the
moment though, like, yeah, if it was a close game, sure.
Yeah,
And
where
you
the
need
3
the
points
3
really
points.
mattered. Yeah, and it would 29 instead of 26 doesn't really matter.
Correct. Yeah. No, this game was over anyway. And I think Josh knew he was coming off the field here either way in a little bit. And this is go ahead.
Producer Chris had it here. Josh said in his presser, that's why we drafted 0. That's why we drafted Keon Coleman.
No, it is. And it was a basketball play. I tweeted out, this is an alley-oop straight up. I put a Vince Carter gif on it because he owns the team now partially. And this was a basketball player going up and getting a rebound, getting an alley-oop. And that's why you have a guy like that. And now you have 2 of them because Amari Cooper can do it too. And so you have these guys that Josh can kind of go to. And so, yeah, in the moment when you if it's a close game, I don't want him doing that, but I don't mind in this moment where you're just trying to solidify. This might have been the cherry on top of that MVP race. This was a highlight play that leaves a good taste in all the voters' mouths. He hadn't had a ton of those before this game here, the last stretch. So all of that's all good. And what a cool play. Real quick, there was a comment here. I get this all the time, so I just want to address it because I think it's a huge narrative, and I might have to do a video on it. Paul Walker, not calling you out necessarily specifically, but says he seems like the safeties play too deep on most downs. I think everybody's got to watch all the rest of the safeties in the NFL because the safeties are playing one up and one down a lot of the time, even if they get into double too high shells. But if you look at average depth of target, average depth of tackle, where the safeties are, it's not any different than the rest of the league. So that's one of these weird narratives, along with like the Bills play a softer zone than everyone else. Like most teams play zone. All the safeties are about this. And like the Bills don't do anything that crazy unique from everyone else in the league. It's just how they disguise those looks.
We've given up one deep ball all season.
That is part of it, but yeah, it's not
that they do that is you don't want teams to try to throw it over your head.
Yeah, but they're not that much further back. I watch a ton of defense, and I follow a lot of guys that do defense, and I've even asked them, I was like, are the Bills like that much? Because I hear it all the time, and they're like, no, it's pretty normal safety play. Like it's not that crazy. So, anyways.
So one more possession here. They go back to the Jets. Another quick 3 and out. Another possession under a minute. Now the Jets have stacked interception 3 and out, fumble 3 and out, 4 possessions with 5 minutes and change of total time of possession in those 4 possessions. This one was incompletion on a pressure, then an Ed Oliver sack, and then a give up screen to Breece Hall because it was 3rd and 22. And we end up getting the ball back here, and now 3 plays, 65 yards. This one was quick handoff for a run stuff, Mitch Trubisky, one play pass to Terrell Shavers on a quick little wide receiver screen that he breaks, through up the middle, 69-yard touchdown, and now it fully is a party in Highmark Stadium.
Yeah, no, I stopped taking notes. I don't even care.
More stuff happened after this, but I don't care. Garbage time. I'm not going to spend time on garbage time. I love Tyrod Taylor. Shouts to Tyrod Taylor. I'm glad he got in the game and we got to cheer him as he deserved, but none of the things that happened after this matter.
No, if anything, though, I feel bad for Steve Mathis of the Air Raid Hour because he needed some garbage time in his epic 6 seed versus 1 seed Dynasty Cover 1 Fantasy League championship battle, and he got nothing from Air. And that has kind of been like his calling card, is getting some like the Jets aren't winning games, but Adams and Rodgers and Wilson get some like garbage time stuff. And he could have really used it today. And Tyrod Taylor took it. He got none of it. So sorry, Steve. You didn't get any.
Yeah. Shout out to our guy, Steve Mathis. He made a great run, but Chris Chouse was a wagon and was destroying everybody.
It's weird that a guy that spends all of his time
giving us our guy who single-handedly built our fantasy channel and has awesome fantasy advice, has the best dynasty team, and is beating all of us in the dynasty league. It's
crushing all of us.
Yeah, destroying all of us. So, I think there's a handful of different things here. A cool one, our man Joe Marino, obviously big fan of Joe and all his work. Producer Chris saw that he had a tweet out here that we already know our opponents for next year. So that's kind of a fun one to see here. Now that it's set up here at home, obviously Dolphins, Patriots, Jets will play the Ravens, Bengals, Saints, Bucks, Chiefs, and Eagles at home. So the tougher teams at home. On the road, Dolphins, Pats, Jets again, Steelers, Falcons, Panthers, Browns, and Texans. So next year, I actually kind of like the way that shakes out. I'd rather have the tougher teams at home. And you want to know why I'd rather have the tougher teams at home, Aaron?
Bills defend their dirt. Undefeated at
The
home.
Buffalo Bills are undefeated at home this year. First time since 1990.
Yeah.
The Bills went 8-0 undefeated at home here this year. And next year we get the extra home game because the AFC flips to be the extra home game. So the tougher games on our schedule, Ravens, Bengals, Chiefs, all the Bucks and Eagles, all those are at home. The teams on the road, Steelers, Falcons, Panthers, Browns, Texans. I like the way that shakes out for next year.
Yeah. So by rules, do we have to be scared of the Bengals game next year now, or can we wait?
Yes.
Okay,
I'll check with Greg Moyer and find out if when that fear subsides.
I might go to that Panthers game, dude. That's a fun stadium. That's a fun town.
Carolina's great. You could go hang out with Joe.
And Tilt too. I could go play some
Joe
golf with
probably both be at that game.
Yeah. And I got a buddy down in Raleigh. So yeah, I might make a little trip down there for that game. A rare trip out of here to go see a game. But yeah, no, cool that schedule's out. But honestly, the only schedule I care about is how the rest of this plays out and what the playoff schedule looks like. I'm postseason AQ. I'm in postseason mode, Greg.
So a couple quick things for that. I am going to be doing a show later on tonight. Greg Tompsett football show. We'll go through some of the different scenarios. The Bills have locked in the 2 seed. I'll go through some of the different scenarios. Right now, it's the Broncos. They will need to beat Carson Wentz and the Kansas City Chiefs. It's already been reported that the Chiefs are sitting their starters next week.
Yeah. It'd be an epic Sean Payton failure. Which he's not. It's not beyond him.
It's within the range of possible outcomes.
You believe if Sean McDermott did what he did the other night and then admitting to both Zach Taylor and Sean Payton and how they handled the end of game the other night and like playing for a tie, openly admitting, coming out and be like, well, we felt good about getting a tie. Oh my God.
Yeah. There's been several that I think obviously there's lots of stuff to legitimately criticize Sean McDermott for, but in the reason that people do defend him is that where he is relative to other coaches, we hold all the coaches to this expectation of perfection, and they're not perfect. They're going to make dumb mistakes, and
if only they play more Madden is what I was told. But.
Allegedly. I think if they just played Madden, they'd have it all figured out. Yeah. So I'll go through some of those scenarios tonight, how some of the other games break out, what we need to be rooting for next week. We'll see the end of this Dolphins Browns game. We'll see some of the other games going into next week and who can line up where. Also, the Ravens and Steelers game is going to matter. There's going to be the Steelers and Bengals game is going to matter. The Ravens game is going to matter. Almost everybody besides the Bills, Chiefs, and oddly the Texans will have things to play for next week with seeding or needing to know where their matchup happens. So based on that, I have a feeling the Bills are just going to be in the big lump of games at 1 p.m. on Sunday next week. We won't know for sure, but it's very, very likely. I think it's also very likely that Steelers-Bengals is a Saturday standalone game because they don't want the Ravens game to impact the incentive for the Steelers and how they play. And obviously having Steelers-Bengals, a division game where both teams matter, they want that before it goes to somewhere else. Based on the Vikings and the Packers, how that game goes today, if the Vikings win, which they're up 10-3 right now, the Sunday night game for sure will be Lions-Vikings because that will be literally the 1 seed playoff game. Whoever wins gets the week off and gets the 1 seed. Whoever loses has to go on the road as the 5 seed, which is tough because teams like Tampa Bay and some of those other teams in the NFC, the Rams, that's no gimme to have to go play teams like that. That's not an easy opening. I'd rather have Houston as an example as the 4 seed in the AFC. So I'll go over some of those scenarios and different situations tonight, but any final thoughts for the people before we wrap up here?
I do have a final thought. I'm entering postseason mode. And with that, I'm just kind of trying to ground what my expectations are, right? Where is this team? Even with this win, I feel high right now off of this win. There's part of me that wants to be like, we're going to run through everybody playing like this, but I want to bring it back to where were my expectations of this team? The defense, even with their performance today, seems to have regressed a little to the mean of NFL defense. I don't think they're as bad as everybody thinks they are, but they might be one of the worst in terms of playoff caliber defenses going into the postseason. I think this offense is one of the
best. You're talking about Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Kansas City. They are defended. The Chargers. Those are all better. Broncos. Yeah, no, I think maybe the Texans. They're probably right there, but they're probably the worst AFC playoff defense.
Yes, I think in overall, and when you like bunch in all the metrics, so like I have concerns. But then I go back to my where was I preseason, and the Bills have exceeded expectations. But should the exceeded expectations move my line for what the expectations are for them, and what their postseason success could be, and what does success look like? Like those are some of the things I'm trying to wrap my head around right now, Greg, because the media wants to tell us it's Super Bowl or bust, right? And if Josh Allen doesn't win a Super Bowl, it's all a huge failure. And one thing I just want to leave people with, and I posted this out the other day, was even the top teams right now in terms of percentage have a 25% chance to make the Super Bowl. So that's the top teams. The Bills right now, I think by most like betting derived market indicators, it's like 12% chance for them to even go on a stretch
third, fourth, fifth. Like I think they're somewhere in the 3rd to 5th.
Yeah, and all those teams are like 9 to 14%. Somewhere within that is your chance to win 4 games and go off and get to a Super Bowl. So like it's easy for us as fans to sit here and say Super Bowl or bust. It's hard to play really good football against the best teams in the NFL for 4 games. Teams like the Kansas City Chiefs and the Patriots have skewed how we actually should be viewing some of the stuff and what they've been able to do with continued success, but it's very hard. And so I'm just trying to frame a like, I think the Bills can win a Super Bowl. I think they have the top 4 odds to do it and make a run at getting it. But those odds are still under 15%. So like I'm trying to frame of like, can success be found in winning a playoff game and not getting blown out in these situations? I know that people will tell me that's a loser mentality, but this stuff's hard to do. And 8 months ago, we didn't even have an idea that this was going to be a team that would be in the top 4 for a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think it's a really exciting position to be in, and all you want is to get there and to have a chance. And again today, I think we got out of it without any major injuries. Obviously, we're not going to start that many people next week or protect all the critical high-end people. Some guys will have to play. Hopefully, we get out of next week without injury as well. But that's the spot that we're in. Kyle here, I'm in the same boat. 1 o'clock win is so nice because I get to listen to you guys while they make dinner. I'm going to go make myself dinner.
I'm going to go make dinner now, too.
Yeah, so appreciate you guys. This has been awesome. Appreciate our sponsors over at West Her. They're fantastic. But on behalf of fantastic producer Chris Kepner and my co-host Aaron Quinn, I am Greg Tompsett. You've been listening to Cover One Buffalo, and we are